Everyone has at least one good story. What's yours? Background: my dad is a drama queen and has tons of stories like this one. He's Norwegian and spent his first year of college at University of Windsor. There was some initial confusion on his part when it came to enrolling in courses, so he ended up not getting into any of the ones that he needed for his major. He went to the registrar to complain about this and was promptly told that he could blame himself. And tough shit. Basically, my dad, having always been a clever jerk, decided to give CBC a call. CBC sent a reporter and a camera guy to my dad's dorm, and they proceeded to follow my dad around on campus. It was a rainy day and the story looked like this. A hopeful Norwegian boy came all the way to Canada to go to college, but didn't get to enroll in any of the courses he wanted. Here he is, sad and alone, standing alone in the rain on campus at U of Windsor. So the next morning, my dad wakes up and immediately turns on the TV to see if his story is on the local news. They had told him they weren't sure whether it would be or not. To his disappointment, his story is not featured. So he walks into the kitchen to make breakfast. TV still on in the background. As the local news finish, the national news broadcast starts. Turns out, my dad was the top story in all of Canada that day. He was immediately contacted by the dean of the university, who apologized frantically and ensured my dad that he could enroll in whatever courses he desired. My first day of first grade, I was waiting for the bus with my mother. The street I lived on connected to a very busy huge hill of main road. I watched this woman zoom down this curve on a bicycle going way too fast and hit a pothole. She flipped her bike and flew over her handlebars and hit a car that was coming up the road. Traffic stopped and my mom ran to this lady. She took her shirt off and started wrapping her head with the bleeding. I stayed with this lady while my mom ran back to our house and called 911. This was the early 90s and cell phones weren't a thing. I guess life was a little more trusting back then too, because no one thought twice about a 6-year-old caring for a bleeding unconscious woman in the road. Kicker is, none of these passengers in stopped cars did anything but stand around and watch. I truly believe it was this strange and traumatic moment that made me the terribly overcautious paranoid child I was and pursue nursing as an adult. I will never ever forget that lady, and I never knew what happened to her either after the ambulance came and took her away. Tilling. Didn't read. I was late for my first day of school because I was covered in someone else's blood. One time my younger brother was vacuuming the house and came across a large huntsman spider. Instead of trapping it, or killing it, or telling literally anyone else in the house, he decided to just suck it up in the vacuum and be done with it. He left the vacuum with the bag still inside in the laundry while we went on holiday for a couple of weeks. We returned to the house infested with tiny spiders. We started killing them. They started getting bigger. Eventually we had to have the house fumigated. For added horror, feel free to Google image search Australian huntsman and keep in mind a full-sized one of those bad boys can be as big as your hand. Edit. People commenting that they're brothers because they eat bugs and aren't venomous enough to kill you. They're also giant hairy beasts that stick to your skin if they land on you and run faster than my dog. You'll need Jesus. Too long. Didn't read. Witnessed a volcanic eruption. I grew up in a place called Taupo, New Zealand. And just out of town is a volcano called Mount Ruapehu. One particular day I was staring out the window when I noticed a thick plume of ash rising up and told the teacher that it had just erupted. But being the class clown, she thought it was just another one of my disruptions. Until the quiet kid in class spoke up. She had told us to stay where we are and left the classroom to talk with the other teachers about what to do. But by the time she had come back, the ash had reached us. It was 11 AM on a Tuesday morning and now it was as black as night. She then told us that if our parents usually pick us up then to wait in class, but if we lived close by then we could leave. My best friend lived just down the road and decided to grab our stuff and leave. I'll never forget the moment we opened the classroom door and stepped outside. Everything was covered in a thick coat of soot and ash, and it was just so freaking dark, which made crossing the road scary as hell. You could barely see the headlights of approaching cars until they were right in front of you. But thankfully it was the only road we had to cross on our walk home. and the rest of the way was through a gully that took us right to my backyard. The next morning I woke up and it felt a lot colder than it usually did, but I just wanted to watch the morning episode of Captain Planet for once and went running for the TV. My mother walked in and said, "I thought you'd be outside playing with the others," but I had no idea what she meant. I looked outside my window and saw that it had actually snowed at my house for the first time ever. Apparently after a volcanic eruption it causes a volcanic winter which can make it snow. I had the longest driveway that went downhill, had a slight turn, and went down even further into a cul-de-sac, so all the neighborhood kids came to play at my house to slide down my driveway. I've never been that happy in my entire life. I miss that day. I was fishing with a friend in a small pond a few years ago. My friend cast out a few times and went to reel in, but he snagged something about halfway back. Though it was just a branch or some weeds. But when he pulled it up out of the water, his hook was embedded in the balls of a 10-inch purple dildo that was burned on the end for some reason. I thought that was pretty hilarious, and I'll probably never forget it. TL. Dr. Dildo Fishing. Backstory: I was 15 and had driver's ed, but didn't have my license yet. We also had to take first aid / CPR classes at my high school. My mom and I were home on a Saturday while my dad was at a riverboat gambling. Mom and I got into a fight, so I was upstairs pouting like a typical teenager. I was napping when I heard her start screaming my name. It wasn't an angry scream. It was a scared scream, which freaked me out. I ran downstairs to find blood everywhere on the floor, all over the dining room, kitchen, puddles of it. It's coming from my mom's ankle. A vein had ruptured, and for a while she didn't realize blood was running out of her as she sat at the kitchen table. From having first aid, I knew I had to get a tourniquet on her ankle to stop her losing more blood. We lived 20 minutes from the nearest hospital, and I didn't even think to call 911. I put her in the back seat with her leg up, wrapped tightly in towels, and drove like mad to get her there. I kept her talking, but as I was getting close to the she was slurring her speech and her eyes were rolling back in her head. The personnel got her from the vehicle and did their thing. The doctor later told me that if I had been any later she would have died. She lost almost half of her blood. She was diagnosed as diabetic while in the hospital, which helped save her life. Too. As a side note, as the staff were working on my mom, I had my grandmother repeatedly call my house phone. This was in the early 90s with no cell phones, to see if she could contact my dad. I was scared he was going to walk in, see puddles of blood and bloody footprints everywhere, and have a heart attack from the shock. Too long. Didn't read. I saved my mom from bleeding out when I was 15. I'd say that my best story stems from my unreasonable misfortune with the movie Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. Now, hear me out. The first time I tried to watch this movie, I decided to go to the movie theater to see it with my girlfriend at the time. I was in the 10th grade and we had been dating for like 5 or 6 months. I you not. As the previews for the movie end, girlfriend decides that's the best time to lean over to me and start the whole "look, I don't think this is gonna work out" thing. She broke up with me right then and there. We just kinda left the theater after that. The second time, I had gone back to the theater with some friends. They decided to treat me to a night out after I had been so suddenly dumped by my ex. Well, after actually making it through the previews this time, the movie begins. We are sitting there watching for about half an hour when the effing fire alarm goes off. Everyone in the theater gets up a little confused and proceeds to leave through the emergency exit. Some shat had pulled the fire alarm, and the entire theater was at the box office trying to get refunds. The line for refunds was ridiculous, so we just left. The third and final time I tried to watch this godforsaken film, I was at a close friend's house. Almost a full year later, his mom had cooked spaghetti for dinner, and we, my friend, his mom, his stepdad, and me, decided to put on Me 4 to watch while we ate. I was just saying, man, yeah no, I seem to have bad luck with this movie. When it got real, my friend's stepdad started choking on the spaghetti, like, really choking. We had to call an ambulance, and he ended up going to the hospital. My friend and I waited at his house after being assured by the paramedics that he'd be alright. And yet again, I didn't finish the movie. I've officially decided it's for the best if I just never try to watch Ghost Protocol again. TL. Doctor, Tom Cruise wants to ruin my life. Too long. Didn't read. My girlfriend and I stumbled upon two change machines giving out free money. Once on a random weekday during the middle of the day. My girlfriend and I were both off work and ended up in an arcade by the bowling/cinema complex. In the UK, don't know about elsewhere, these arcades always have machines to win small amounts of coins. http://imga.com/qsg1mzk JPG and useless toys. So I go to the change machine to get some 10p coins. I put in 20p, but instead of 2x 10p coins dropping out, I get 2x £1. Strange. So anyway, I still want my 10p coins so I can play the machine. So I put in another 20p coin I had in my pocket, and again I get 2x £1 back. At this point I figured something was up, and I call my girlfriend over and tell her I put 40p in the machine and it gave me £4. I tried putting in the only other coin I had, which was a 50p coin. Sure enough, I got 5x £1 from the machine. I don't know what's going on, so I try putting a £1 coin in, and I get 10x £1 coins back. Neither of us can quite believe what is happening, but I try a couple more times just recycling the £1 coins into the machine, and I keep getting 10x £1 coins back. After about 4 times, nothing happens. The machine must be out of coins. We are both at this point extremely confused, excited, and somewhat paranoid. There's nobody else around. The whole place is dead. My pockets are full of £1 coins. I go to the other machine and cautiously put in another £1 coin, and magically 10x £1 coins come out again. Both machines are doing this for some reason. I try a couple more times on that machine and eventually the paranoia just gets too much for us, and we both think something effing weird is going on here. We should go. So we both quick walk out of there. Me looking like some kind of paranoid Basil Fawlty, just wanting to get to the car so we can collect our thoughts. My pockets are so loaded with coins they are falling down. I have literally no more space on me to carry £1 coins. When we get in the car we both sit there and I begin emptying my coins into my girlfriend's lap. We count something £70-80 and £1 coins and seriously discuss if we are the subject of one of those TV prank shows. The whole thing was just so surreal, with nobody around and both machines just giving out free money to us. We drove home and nothing else ever came of it. So we came to the conclusion that someone must have put in rolls of £1 coins for some reason into both machines, instead of 10p coins. Either way, it was one of those things that happened which was just super funny / surreal at the time, and is always one of our favorite stories to reminisce about. Yeah, I know we are technically thieves, but it was magical. I have a similar story. We have an outdoor mall in my town, and it has a couple soda machines that take credit cards. I was going around trying out a card I know only had $0.43 on it, and no, I couldn't afford the $1.50 bottles of soda but was bored. One worked, was surprised and tried again. It worked. Used a Costco gift card just for fun. It worked. Used my driver's license. It worked. So of course I used the Costco card and my friends and I emptied the machine at 10 at night. We got the cops called on us because someone thought we were breaking the machine. We got pulled over leaving, and we are told to wait there while another car checked on the machine. It was physically fine, so no reason to keep us. The cop asked why we got so many sodas from the machine, close to 100 of them, and I said I had a lot of change to use. The machine worked for a couple months and I would stop by and get a couple sodas once or twice a week. I went one day and it was being worked on, so I left. It didn't work. When I tried again, got 120 plus free bottles of soda.